Hello guys, we are back again with our fifth session of Blue Prism tutorial. So today we are going to see what are the layers of logic in a process, what are page references, how to create a page reference, how do you pass inputs and get output variables from different pages, how do we step into the process so that we can debug better, and we would also see how to make a data item globally visible, and we will also try to publish a process to control room and try to run that process from a control room. We will also touch upon what are startup parameters and how to use those. Right, so let's get started. So this is the hierarchical structure of pages in a process. Whatever page you create, that page individually has no identity in a process. So whenever you run a process, it always runs from the main page, and main page will be calling upon different pages to run. Okay, we'll see that in a minute. So basically understand that the main page is the only page which has its individual identity. The rest of the pages can be called by the main page. So when you design a process, you subdivide the different tasks, and those tasks you create in different pages, so that those pages it does not basically create confusion for the main process, and individual tasks are carried out in different pages, and the result is again obtained in the main page for further processing. So we'll see an example of that, and you will get gradually clear about it. Right, now this thing is the how page reference works. Like, let's say you have a page in a process which is calling a lower page or another page. Let's name the upper page as page 1 and lower page as page 2. So if the page 1 wants to call page 2, it has to use page reference to call page 2 directly. Okay, we'll see that also in our today's tutorial. Okay, so you remember this circular path exercise which we did in our earlier videos. Basically it was just keeping a counter of the loop, and if the condition matches your counter, it runs till counter is less than the number of max loops. If it reaches equal to max loops, it exits. Right, so for your quick recap, let me run this process. So you see how loop is being executed. Right, so now let's say we want to create a new page. So to do that, you have to click on the main page, click on new, and name it, let's say, some page. Let's name it as page to run circular path. Okay, so you see a new page is being created. Right, so let's do this. Let's try to cut this thing, the whole thing, Control X, and paste it here. Okay, so if I paste it, it comes here. Let me link it. So basically what we are doing here is we are trying to do the entire processing in this page itself. Right, now let me try to run this page directly. Refresh and run. What it says, failed to find stage linked from stage start, which is in the main page. So basically whenever you run a process from any page, the page runs from the main page start stage only. Okay, so let's try to do this. Let's just try to start and end so that we don't get that error, but we want to see what happens now. Will our circular path run or not? Right, so let me try to run it from here. Again, you see it, the cursor went back to main page, directly start to end. Right, so now let's see, we want to run this page, so we will have to create a page reference. Right, so to create a page reference, you see this stage, you just drag it here. As soon as you drag it, one wizard opens up which says create a reference to an existing page. In our case, we will use this option because we already have a page created. In case you don't have a page created, you can also select add a new page and create a reference to it. Okay, so for now we will create a reference to an existing page. So let me click on next. All the existing pages will be listed over here. You have one page to run circular path, that is listed here, right? So just select it, click on finish. So this page is now, this stage is now referring to this particular page to run circular path, right? So let's try to link it like this. Okay, and now let's try to run it. If you try to run it, you see there is an error. Why? It says failed to evaluate expression counter plus one data item counter cannot be accessed from this stage, because your cursor went to page to run circular path. It started from the start, then it came here. Now this is a page reference, so your cursor went here in the start stage. After that it wanted to increment the counter. Now when it opened this increment counter, there is a variable used a counter. Now that variable is not present here in this page, in this local space. So that variable is currently present in the main page. So we will have to either create these variables here. This is one way of doing it. Let's try to run it and see if it runs. Right, let's see, it runs, correct. So what happened, let me just slow it down. If I slow it down, you will be able to visualize better what happened. Right, start, then calling this page, start, doing the calculation, everything, right. So let me pause it. As we have learnt already, we don't want to see everything. We will change the runtime value. If you don't remember this, please refer to our earlier video. Right, start again, condition reached. So again cursor came back here and a page end. Right, so this is how your hierarchy of pages work, right. So now if we don't have this here and we have it in main page, let's say, and we want to refer these values inside the secondary page. So to do that, you open the data item, you see here visibility, hide from other pages in the process. If you uncheck it, that means this variable will be visible inside all the pages in this particular process, right. So let me uncheck this. Now we have made these two variables as global, so these two variables will be visible in this scope. So now we will not face the error which we are facing earlier. So let's try to run it. Start, again page started, start menu of the page, then increment counter, doing all this thing, and once done, if you want to see here, you can see the value here changing, the counter value. Let me pause it. You see the counter value, it's increasing. So what I will do, I will just change the value to 9 runtime so that we don't have to see it again. Right, increment counter, condition reached, and cursor returned back to the end stage. Right, now let's do another example. Let's create another page reference. Right, I will also use the same page for creating this reference, and I will link it just to show you how the cursor thing works. Right, so let me just create it. Okay, and let me make max loop as 2 so that we are able to visualize. Please pay attention here, guys, how the cursor moves. This will be very helpful when you design any process. Right, so it started, went to the first page reference, did the increment counter thing, checked for condition, and it will loop through, cursor back on end. After end, the cursor returned to the next available stage, which was again a page reference. Again the same thing will happen, and we will go back. Right, so did you get the working of pages? I hope yes. Okay, now let's learn about how to step into a particular process, and which is very helpful in debugging. So you see these three options over here: step, step over, and step out. These three things are very important from certification prospect as well. In some questions they just give the icon and ask you what will happen if I click this icon. Okay, so you have to remember these icons, and you can also remember these shortcuts. So F11 is for step, shift F11 is for step out, and F10 is for a step over. Right, now what is a step? When we do a step, it basically executes only one action at a time. So let's try to do it. You will mark the difference. If I do a step, initial cursor is always on start, so the cursor is returned in the next action. Now when I do a step again, since this thing was a page reference, so it goes to the page and cursor is returned to the start stage. Right, I do another step, it goes to the next available step. I do another step, next available stage. I do another step, whatever is there it will do. Right, so step is basically used for one step at a time or one action at a time. Right, now let's say what is step over. Now when I click to step over for the first time, it jumps over the start and returns the cursor to the next stage. Now when I click on step over again, the cursor will be returned directly to the next available stage and without showing you what happened inside. So whatever you are using in this stage will be executed at once, and the cursor will return to the next stage in the main page itself. It will not show you what is happening inside this particular stage. Right, like in case of our step, it opened up the page and it showed you all the processing inside that page. Correct. So let's try to do it. You see, it returned directly cursor here without showing you the execution in this particular stage. Correct. If I do another step over, it will directly do the things whatever are written inside this thing, and your cursor will return to the next stage, which is the end stage. Right, so you know now the difference between step and step over. Step is one action at a time, and it will show you everything that is being done at the moment. Step over is one stage at a time, and it will not show whatever is happening inside that stage. Okay, now step out. Step out is used to do the entire execution of the process, and the cursor will always return to the end stage. Right, let's say it. If I do a step over, it did everything inside it, and the cursor directly returns to the end stage. So that means one process at a time. I repeat, step is one action at a time, step over is one stage at a time, and step out is entire process at a time. Okay, I hope you get it. If you practice it, you will be much more clear. Thank you. So now let's see how to publish this process to control room. Right, so let me just change it something 10, and to publish the process, what you have to do, you have to come to main page. You have to double click on the information stage, and here is the option publish this process to control room. Right, if you do a OK, let me show you the difference first. When you go to the control room, you have no process over here. Right, so once we publish the process and we save it, let's save it as published process, save changes. Now when we go to our control room and I refresh it, oh, that's a bug. Now sometimes these things happen, so if you run into such issues, just close Blue Prism and open it again. If you open it again, now you see it's visible. So once you open it, it's visible now in the published processes. So now this process is available for you for execution onto a particular available resource. Okay, so how to do that? You will have to wait for this to become available. This is your machine or your system or your desktop or your laptop, wherever you have installed Blue Prism. So in an enterprise situation, you will get multiple machines listed over here, which are called as resources. Since it is a standalone installation right now, we have only one machine. So to run this process on this particular machine, you will create a session. So just drag it and drop it on the machine, right? Once you do that, you see here you created a session with ID 6, process name this, resource this, user admin, and status is pending because it has not started yet. To start it, you have to click on start selection, right? So once you do, this process will run and it will show you the status as completed if successfully run. If some error comes, it will show you status as terminated, right? So now if you double click on this session, you see the logs. So what happened, we can verify from here. See here, created session log. You remember main page start, then page to run circular path, which was a subsheet, then subsheet start, increment counter. These are the counter values. 1, decision stage was true, calculation counter incremented to 2, decision was 2, decision was true again incremented counter to 3, max loop reached, decision was true. So similarly, you remember our max loop count was 10, so it will run till 10. Then the decision came as false, so it ended and it returned the cursor back to the next stage, which was again the same page. So again subsheet started that execution, incremented the counter 10 to 11, decision was false, and end was reached. After that, it sent the cursor back to the main page end, correct? And these are the timings. So this is how you can see the logs in runtime as well, right? Okay. Now coming back to the studio where we created this exercise. Now let's say we don't want to use static values, right? We want to send values from the control room. So to do that, you need to particularly send an input parameter to this particular process. So to do that, what you can do, you have to open the start stage. Just double click on the start stage, right? Let's say we want to send the maximum loop value from the control room. So you create a variable name as, let's say, max retries. Okay, and description I will write as, please enter the number of times you want to run the loop. Okay, data type I want it to be a number, and whatever value the user inputs should be stored in max loops. Okay, so this is the input variable which we want to send from the control room, right? So I save it again. Let me name something and let me try to run it from the control room again, right? So I run it. Now when I start this, it will ask me for a input max retries. So you remember the name of variable which we gave, so we can specify from here, run it for 100 times. Okay, and I can start it. So that particular thing will be run for 100 times, that loop will be executed for 100 times, and we will get the output. You see here 100 times it has incremented the counter and it has run it, correct? Now similarly, let's say we want to get the output from a process. So like for input you have to do in start stage, and for output you can do it in end stage. So let's say we want to send output as the counter value, right? Description is the max counter value, and data type will be number again, and I want to send this counter value in the output, right? I have to save it again. Now once I save it and I run it from here again, control room, See now what happens. When we start the selection, it asks again, please enter the number. Let me give it as 20 and start it. So once it is completed, when you come here, you see in parameters section, this is the input that you give in max retries number 20, and now you will see here the output counter value number 21. Okay, so this is how you send parameters and get parameters from the process. Now whatever you are sending into the main page of a process, those are called as startup parameters. So basically these are the startup parameters, max retries, which you sent in from control room to the process, right? Now similarly you can also send inputs here, right? So let's say we want to send some input to this particular page, right? So let me do one thing, let me hide it from the main page. I will make it local for now, right? So to make it local, now this is local, counter is also local, max loop is also local, and this is local here, right? So let's do one thing, let me remove the startup parameters again for our example. Okay, now let's say we want to run from start, go to this page, and from this page these values are static. Now we want to make it dynamic. We want the main page to send values to this particular page. How many times should the loop run? So to do that, we will add a parameter in the start stage here. It's like a sub function we are calling, and to that sub function we will send some parameters. So let me name it as max value. Okay, data type number, store in max loops, right? So now if I refresh here, you open this page to run, it asks you for an input, right? So you have to send a value here. Let's say for now I am sending 100, right? Or else you send the value from control room, it will come to this page, and from this page you send the value to the sub page, right? So to do that, how will you do it? You will add a data item, let it be data1, type number, right? Type number, okay, and I will add it here something, enter max loops number, store it in data1. Okay, now this page will also ask, so let me put it, this data1 value should go here, and here also let's give data1 value, right? So basically what we want to do, we want to run this process from control room. We want the user to input a value which will be the max loop count, right? And that value will be stored in this data1, which will be in turn passed on to this particular page to run circular path, right? Now that value will come to max loops, right here. So 100 comes in here, and this thing will be executed 100 times, right? So let me delete this, just one thing we will see so that we are able to see. Okay, now let me save it and let's try to run it. Okay, if I run it now, I will have to give 100, right? Start it, and you see it's completed. So now if you open, you see here what happened. Created session log, right? In the start menu, you sent input parameter enter max loops as 100, which was passed to the subset, and it was stored in max value 100, right? Then max value 100, it started, it run for 100 times, right? And when it ends, it returned to the main page end and exits the process, right? So this is how startup parameters and passing on inputs and retrieving output works, right? So you can practice through it. If you have any doubts, leave your comments in the comment section of this video and I will get back to you. So that's it for today's video, guys. Next video we will touch upon Object Studio. If you have any questions, please drop in the comment section, and do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you.